Om Jnanatimidandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupagada Mayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vidhamscha He Krishna Kuruna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Juvascha Kripa Sindhu Vivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Nam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudidayet Nasta Presho Badreshu Nityam Bhagavat Shevaya Bhagavad Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 24, Chanting the Song sung by Lord Shiva. Today, text 45 and 46, there is a very extensive purport to these two verses. So in the interest of time, I'll just chant the Sanskrit non-responsively. We'll skip the word for word, and we'll go to the translation and purport. Snigdha pravidgana shamam sarva saundarya sangraham Charv ayat chaturbahu sujata ruchirananam. was Mataji named Ruchi Ranana. I used to know. Padmakosha Palak Shakam. Padmakosha Palak Shaksham. Sundara Brihu Sunak Shikam. Sudvijam Sukapolasham. Samakarna Vibhushanam. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. This is Lord Shiva singing his mantras. The Lord's beauty resembles a dark cloud during the rainy season. As the rainfall glistens, his bodily features also glisten. Indeed, he is the sum total of all beauty. The Lord has 4 arms and an exquisitely beautiful face, with eyes like lotus petals, a beautiful highly raised nose, a mind-attracting smile, a beautiful forehead, and equally beautiful and fully decorated ears. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Can you ask them to not talk loudly right outside the window, please? Thank you. After the scorching heat of the summer season, it is very pleasing to see dark clouds in the sky. As confirmed in Brahma Samhita, Bhagavatam Sam Asitam Buddha Sundarangam, the Lord wears a peacock feather in his hair, and his bodily complexion is just like a blackish cloud. The word Sundara or Snigdha means very pleasing. Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya, Krishna's beauty is so pleasing that not even millions upon millions of cupids can compare to it. The Lord's form as Vishnu is decorated in all opulence. Therefore, Lord Shiva is trying to see that most opulent form of Narayana or Vishnu. Generally, the worship of the Lord begins with the worship of Narayana or Vishnu, whereas the worship of Lord Krishna and Radha is most confidential. Lord Narayana is worshipable by the Pancharatrika Vidhi, or regular principles, whereas Lord Krishna is worshipable by the Bhagavat Vidhi. No one can worship the Lord in the Bhagavat Vidhi without going through the regulations of the Pancharatrika Vidhi. Actually, neophyte devotees worship the Lord according to the Pancharatrika Vidhi, or the regulative principles enjoined in the Narada Pancharatra. Radha Krishna cannot be approached by the neophyte devotees. Therefore, temple worship, according to regular principles, is offered to Lakshmi Narayan. Although there may be a Radha Krishna Vigraha or form, the worship of the neophyte devotees is acceptable as Lakshmi Narayana worship. Worship according to the Pancharatrika Vidhi is called Vidhimarg, and worship according to the Bhagavat Vidhi principles is called Ragamarg. The principles of Ragamarg are specially meant for devotees who are elevated to the Vrindavana platform. The inhabitants of Vrindavana, the gopis, Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd boys, the cows, and everyone else are actually on the Ragamarga or Bhagavat Marg platform. They participate in 5 basic rasas: Dasya, Sukya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, and Shanta. But although these 5 rasas are found in the Bhagavat Marg, the Bhagavat Marga is especially meant for Vatsalya and Madhurya, or parental and conjugal relationships. Yet there is the Vipralambra Sakya, the higher fraternal worship of the Lord, especially enjoyed by the cowherd boys. Although there is friendship between Krishna and the cowherd boys, this friendship is different from the Aishvarya friendship between Krishna and Arjuna. When Arjuna saw the Vishvarupa, the gigantic universal form of the Lord, he was afraid for having treated Krishna as an ordinary friend. Therefore, he begged Krishna's pardon. However, the cowherd boys who are friends of Krishna in Vrindavan sometimes ride on the shoulders of Krishna. They treat Krishna equally, just as they treat one another, and they are never afraid of him, nor do they ever beg his pardon. Thus, in the Ragamarg or Bhagavat, without serving Krishna according to the Vidhimarg regulative principles, of the Pancharatrika Vidhi, unscrupulous persons want to jump immediately to the Raga Marg principles. Such persons are called Sahajiya. There are also demons who enjoy depicting Krishna and his pastimes with the gopis, taking advantage of Krishna by their licentious character. These demons, who print books and write lyrics on the Ragamarg principles, are surely on the way to hell. Unfortunately, they lead others down with them. Devotees in Krishna consciousness should be very careful to avoid such demons. One should strictly follow the Vidhi Marg regulative principles in the worship of Lakshmi Narayan, although the Lord is present in the temple as Radha Krishna. Radha Krishna includes Lakshmi Narayana. Therefore, when one worships the Lord according to the regular principles, the Lord accepts the service in the role of Lakshmi Narayana. In the Nectar of Devotion, full instructions are given about the Vidhi Marga worship of Radha Krishna or Lakshmi Narayana. Although there are 64 kinds of offenses one can commit in Vidhi Marga worship, in Raga Marga worship, there is no consideration of such offenses, because the devotees on that platform are very much elevated, and there is no question of offense. But if we do not follow the regular principles on the Vidhi Marg platform and keep our eyes trained to spot offenses, we will not make progress. In his description of Krishna's beauty, Lord Shiva uses the words Char Vayata Chatur Bahu Sujata Ruchirananam, indicating the beautiful four-armed form of Narayana or Vishnu. Those who worship Lord Krishna describe him as Sujata Ruchirananam. In the Vishnu Tattva, there are hundreds and thousands and millions of forms of the Supreme Lord. But of all these forms, the form of Krishna is the most beautiful. Thus, for those who worship Krishna, the word Sujata Ruchirananam is used. The four arms of Lord Vishnu have different purposes. The hands holding a lotus flower and conch shell are meant for the devotees, whereas the other two hands, holding a disc and a mace or club, are meant for the demons. Actually, all of the Lord's arms are auspicious, whether they are holding conch shells and flowers or clubs and discs. The demons killed by Lord Vishnu's chakra, disc, and club are elevated to the spiritual world, just like the devotees who are protected by the hands holding the lotus flower and conch shell. However, the demons who are elevated to the spiritual world are situated in the impersonal Brahman effulgence, whereas the devotees are allowed to enter into the Vaikuntha planets. Those who are devotees of Lord Krishna are immediately elevated to the Goloka Vrindavan planet. The Lord's beauty is compared to rainfall, because when the rain falls in the rainy season, it becomes more and more pleasing to the people. After the scorching heat of the summer season, the people enjoy the rainy season very much. Indeed, they even come out of their doors in the villages and enjoy the rainfall directly. Apparently, they have rain in the monsoon in India. Unlike here, we have monsoon at very little. Thus, the Lord's bodily features are compared to the clouds of the rainy season. The devotees enjoy the Lord's beauty because it is a collection of all kinds of beauties. Therefore, the word Sarva Saundarya Sangraham is used. No one can say that the body of the Lord is wanting in beautiful parts. It is completely Purnam. Everything is complete. God's creation, God's beauty, and God's bodily features. All these are so complete that all one's desires can become fully satisfied when one sees the beauty of the Lord. The word Sarva Saundarya indicates that there are different types of beauties in the material and spiritual worlds, and that the Lord contains all of them. Both materialists and spiritualists can enjoy the beauty of the Lord. Because the Supreme Lord attracts everyone, including demons and devotees, materialists and spiritualists, he is called Krishna. Similarly, his devotees also attract everyone. As mentioned in the Sad Goswami Stotra, Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo. The Goswamis are equally dear to the Dhira, devotees, and Adhira, demons. Lord Krishna was not very pleasing to the demons when he was present in Vrindavan. But the 6 Goswamis were pleasing to the demons when they were present in Vrindavan. That is the beauty of the Lord's dealing with his devotees. Sometimes the Lord gives more credit to his devotees than he takes for himself. For instance, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna fought simply by giving directions. Yet it was Arjuna who took the credit for fighting. Nimitta matram bhavyasavyasachi. You, O Savyasachi, Arjuna, can be but an instrument in the fight. Gita 11:33. Everything was arranged by the Lord, but the credit of victory was given to Arjuna. Similarly, in the Krishna consciousness movement, everything is happening according to the predictions of Lord Chaitanya, but the credit goes to Lord Chaitanya's sincere servants. Thus the Lord is described herein as Sarva Saundarya Sangraham. What a purport. All right. Before I begin, we will consult the devotees who would like to say just a few words only, about their impression of this purport. Raise your hand. Yes.
Very pucka, very nice.
Okay, good. Very good. That's nice. Anyone else? Some kind of impression from hearing Srila Prabhu. Actually, this purport could be like a whole semester of postgraduate study, a course, just this purport in itself, because it covers such a wide range of important things. What struck me after reading this purport a couple of times is the complete mastery of Srila Prabhupada, of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, in both its technical details, like explaining the difference between the Pancharatrika Vidhi and the Bhagavat Marg, the path of the regular principles and the path of spontaneous devotion, also called Raga. Raga means attachment. And the residents of Vrindavan are on that platform of Raga. But one should not try to imitate that or jump up to that platform. Sometimes that's referred to as monkey jumping, because the monkey is in the tree and the monkey can jump up. What is the significance of the monkey jumping? It is not very important. It's just the monkey jumping. There's so many monkeys. They're jumping all the time. So one should not try to surpass the Pancharatrika Vidhi, especially in deity worship, and try to jump up onto the Vrindavan platform. Although there are many who do that or try to do that. I had a friend who became a sannyasi in ISKCON, and by doing exactly what Prabhupada said we should not do, associating with Radhakund Babaji's, he left ISKCON and took Babaji initiation. He was already initiated by Prabhupada. I mean, what do you want in life? Right? He's already initiated by Srila Prabhupada. Yet, he abandoned that to take Babaji initiation and take another name and leave the association of Prabhupada's International Society. And of course, what goes with that? Big beard, big hair, and became a Radhakund Babaji. And this is directly against the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. So I felt sorry for him. I felt pain in my heart because he was actually a friend. We were very friendly. We shared some nice thing. We used to go on Harinam together. He was president in one temple and had a preaching center in Washington, D.C. They had a nice program there. There they have the metro, the subway. And so early in the morning, all the people are going to the metro to go to work. So the Harinam party would go out at 7 o'clock in the morning to the metro stop that was nearby, walking distance, and have big Harinam, a bunch of brahmacharis, a bunch of devotees, 15, 20 devotees. big ecstatic Harinam, and then come back and have class. So it was pretty exhilarating and enlivening, even in the cold weather sometimes. That was the preaching center on O Street, the famous O Street temple, which was mostly brahmachari and book distributor kind of preaching center. But that going out on that Harinam early in the morning was a very nice program, a wonderful program, which this devotee had instituted. Such a good program. But then, like whatever happened to him, he became somebody else, Babaji, and gave up the association of all his old friends, the devotees in ISKCON. For what? For monkey jumping to a higher. Although he was, he was an American guy from California, cool guy and all that. So that tragedy, and Prabhupada is giving some indication here that that should not be done. But Prabhupada's complete mastery of the science of bhakti yoga is on exhibit, well, with everything he did, but particularly in his books. Srila Prabhupada is a consummate scholar of Vedic knowledge and has realized all the conclusions of Vedic knowledge. There's a verse in the 11th canto that describes that tasmad gurum prapadyeta, you should surrender to a spiritual master. And then it describes the qualification of that guru. Tasmad gurum prapadyeta jigashu shreya uttamam shabde partita nishnatam brahmanupashmaya shrayam. That he has fully realized shabde, the Vedic literature, the Vedic knowledge. He is a master of that knowledge. And he is completely detached from any kind of sense gratification. He is very renounced. He is on the spiritual platform. Brahmanupashmaya shrayam. He's fixed up in the Brahman platform, the platform of spiritual existence. So Srila Prabhupada so exemplifies this verse as he does, although he doesn't try to take any credit or point to himself. But still, when we hear verses like this, we see Srila Prabhupada manifesting these qualities. And he's an extraordinary spiritual master. Every morning we sing the Guru Vastakam prayers written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Vande Guru Sri Charanaravindaam, that describe all these wonderful things about the spiritual master. And therefore, Vande Guru, Sri Charanaravindaam, I offer my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of such a spiritual master, who is like a rain cloud. The material world is like a burning forest fire, but the only way to extinguish that forest fire is by the rain cloud. You could say, what about the helicopter dropping the thing of chemicals on the fire? That doesn't always work, by the way. But when the rain cloud comes and pours down the rainfall, it extinguishes that fire. So similarly, the spiritual master extinguishes the blazing fire of material existence by pouring. He's like a rain cloud that pours down that rain of mercy. That rain of mercy is Krishna's mercy upon the conditioned souls. And furthermore, he is always enlivened to take part in the Krishna Kirtan, the type of kirtan that was manifest by Mahaprabhu. And he's playing musical instruments and singing and engaging the devotees in the same thing. And that verse specifically mentions Romanchakam Prashu Taranga Bhajo. Taranga Bhajo means waves of ecstasy. Taranga means waves. Romancha. Roma means hair. The hairs are standing on end. Kampra Ashru, tears flowing from the eyes. Taranga Bhajo, experiencing waves of ecstasy. Whoa. Don't imitate this. But such a spiritual master is experiencing this. Srila Prabhupada exhibited that. Sometimes it's described how, by devotees, how tears would, not just tears would come down his cheek, but tears would spring forth from his eyes and wet everyone who was in the vicinity around him. You don't see that on soap opera TV, on the dramas where everybody's experiencing the different rasas of love and pain and difficult circumstances. No, it's a completely spiritual thing. The tears are just jumping out of the eyes. Mahaprabhu exhibited this also. Again, don't imitate that. It's hard to imitate unless you have some kind of, special eye drops. I think in the movie industry, there are very highly accomplished actors who can summon tears at will. They're such great actors that they can emote their part they're playing, and actually tears will come down from their eyes, just like you would feel if you had some real emotion. They can do that. It is said that of some great actors, they can just manifest those tears at will because they're so good at their craft. But those tears are not like the tears of ecstasy, which are symptomatic of transformations of spiritual ecstasy that are described in the Nectar of Devotion. Atva Sattvika Vihara, 8 bodily transformations, including tears springing from the eyes. But Srila Prabhupada exhibited that. And sometimes he would even go into a trance of ecstasy on the Vyasasan in front of a temple room full of devotees. There was one such instance that occurred in Mayapur. Srila Prabhupada suddenly became still. He was motionless. That's why he's giving class. And the whole room was filled with devotees, mostly from America. It was in 1976. The whole Radha Damodar party were there, all these sannyasis were there. And everyone just froze, expectant. Wow, look at Prabhupada. What is he doing? What's going to happen next? And then one sannyasi who was known for his bold character, he started singing, Namo Vishnu Padaya. And the silence was disturbed. And everyone was looking at him like really mad. And then Prabhupada came back from wherever he had been, associating with Krishna, no doubt. And then they had the kirtan, and then Prabhupada left. And then later a devotee said to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, we didn't know what to do because you became very still. We could see that you were somewhere else. You left. And you went into some kind of ecstasy. And Prabhupada said shyly, he said, yes, I don't do that very often. It's described elsewhere that an elevated Vaishnav who's experiencing these symptoms of ecstasy, they will repress or try to hide those symptoms of ecstasy, not to exhibit them. Then there are others who try to artificially exhibit symptoms of ecstasy. One time a man came into the Vrindavan temple, Krishna Balaram Mandir, in the 1970s, and he began to roll on the floor in ecstasy, apparently. Or at least he was rolling on the floor. And then the devotees ignored him. And then he was looking around and he saw nobody's paying attention. And he got up and he walked away in disappointment. And then they asked Prabhupada about that also. And Prabhupada says, well, you can test if he is in ecstasy. You kick him. If he gets up and protests, then you know it wasn't ecstasy. If he's really in ecstasy, you kick him, he won't even notice. So, one should not try to imitate or monkey jump or like Prabhupada's describing here in the purport, these demons who try to take advantage of Krishna's rasa dance with the gopis. And they imitate that. They have their own rasa dance. Sometimes they even dress up like gopis. It's the Vrindavan cross-dressing phenomena. This is going on long before they had these, queer queens who dress up as women and make a show. Some states, they pay, like it's illegal to have drag shows. And it's a whole business. I was doing a arts and craft show in Miami Beach along the main thoroughfare there. And then they would come out of the gay bars and dance and make a big commotion in the street. And it was all very silly, but it also can be a very good business for some of them. But this, we call them Saki Vedas, something or other, forget the Sanskrit term. They imitate the gopis. They dress up like gopis and they're having their rasa dance. Well, these things are going on. We don't see this so much Tucson in our temple. Thank goodness. But it goes on in India especially. And Prabhupada says that these are demons. These are demons. He even wrote in Chaitanya Charitamrita, somewhat shockingly, that there are demons in the dress of devotees in this Krishna consciousness movement. Whoa. I've met one or two such. Clearly. They usually don't last. So one devotee in Vrindavan, he was a scholarly devotee, Sanskrit scholar. And he thought that the standard of the Bhagavatam classes given in the temple were not very good. So he was going outside to Radhakund Babaji's and others. And Prabhupada said, do not do that. Don't do that. No one can do that. That is not allowed. He said, if you think the standard of classes is not very high, then you give the class. But later this devotee became very envious because of his deviations. And he told Prabhupada, I'm leaving and give me your blessings to find a real guru. Can you imagine that? Wow. What must have possessed him? It's like being possessed by a ghost or something. Possessed. Thinking that, oh, Prabhupada, give me your blessings because you're not the real guru. Let me find the real guru. If Prabhupada's not the real guru? Are you kidding? Prabhupada's the guru of the whole world. Read his books. Such a spiritual master has not been seen. He is Pratishtacharya. There are certain Pratishthacharyas in different sampradayas. In our sampradaya, there's Madhvacharya, Pratishta Guru, a great founder acharya, a great teacher who created many devotees and sannyasis. And there's also Ramanuja Acharya, who's not in our sampradaya, but is a famous Pratishtacharya. Or even Shankaracharya, who's Lord Shiva. He is not in our sampradaya. Although some people claim that we are in his sampradaya because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted sannyas from Keshava Bharati, who is in the Shankaracharya sampradaya. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's very clever. He's Krishna himself. We all know Krishna is very clever. In Vrindavan, they say, oh, Krishna is very tricky. You think you know something. You think you're going to do something. You think you're advanced. And Krishna will smoke you. His lotus foot will come down on your head. We would all be glad to have Krishna's lotus foot on our head, wouldn't we? That would be an accomplishment. But sometimes that lotus foot comes down on the head in a way which we may not find so palatable. So they say, even amongst ISKCON devotees who live in Vrindavan, oh yes, you have to be careful. Krishna's very tricky. You may think, oh yes, this, oh yes, that. And Krishna will exhibit things in such a way that, kind of like Bhagavad Gita, Moga Sha, Moga Karmana, Moga Jnana Vitejasaha, all your hopes, Ashu means hope, Moga Sha, Moga Karmana, Moga Jnana Vitejasaha, Asharim, Rakshashim Dayam, that all your hopes and all your fantasies and false ideas of advancement smashed by some circumstance that is arranged by Krishna. That happens to us in our lives. It may happen to you. It may have already happened to you. And maybe it's going to happen to you. Actually, it will happen at some point. It happens to everybody. It's becoming a devotee and trying to anartha nivriti shat, get rid of our anarthas. That is part of the process of purification. And sometimes that purification comes in the form of, like, Maxwell's silver hammer, that Beatles song? Bang, bang, Maxwell's silver hammer came down upon his head. So we may experience that. That is the nectar of Krishna's lotus feet. Although certainly when it happens to us, when it comes upon us, we don't think it is the nectar. But the path of bhakti is, the saying goes, beset by thorns. So there will be difficulty. Like one friend of mine who's an educator in Mayapur, he said, there are many tests in devotional service. And then he got this very intense look on his face. He said, and those tests will come. And certainly they came to him at different times. And certainly I have experienced some tests, but I don't think I'm out of the woods yet, let me tell you. There will come many tests. And that is also Krishna's mercy upon us. And so we shouldn't think that, oh yes, now I have surrendered. I've taken initiation. I'm following the process. Everything will be everything is beautiful, like that. Well, maybe not. Or as another song which I'm fond of quoting, a country and western song from the 70s. I beg your pardon, I never promised you a rose garden. So, but the devotee has to be determined to accept whatever comes. And it may be Krishna coming in a form that you do not relish and you do not appreciate. And that is explained in the 10th canto. Tate nukampam shukshami kshamano bunjana evatma kritam vapakam ridvag vapurvir vididhan namaste jiveta yomukti pade sadayabhak. Whenever a devotee suffers some reverse or some apparent reverse in their material existence, they just accept that as Krishna's mercy. And they go on patiently with their devotional service without any interruption and without getting mad at Krishna. Krishna, why are you doing this to me? I'm your devotee. I've surrendered everything. Why are you treating me like this? What is the matter with you, Krishna? Are you really God or what? What is the story? But no, one who has surrendered himself to Krishna, then Hridvag Vapurvir, within his heart, Hrid means the heart, and Hridvag Vapurvir, and by his speech, by his actions, he goes on, Hridvag Vapurvir Vididhan Namaste, offering his obeisances to Krishna from within the core of his heart, patiently tolerating all reverses in life. And we've been reading from Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita. Wow, what reverses Srila Prabhupada suffered? Massive business failures, rejection by his family. Actually, we're going to read tomorrow a famous verse from the Bhagavatam about how Krishna, when he's especially mercifully disposed towards someone, he takes everything away. His money, his position, his respectability, and leaves him with nothing. And then Bhagavatam states in Prabhupada's translation that his friends and family then reject this poverty-stricken and wretched fellow. poverty-stricken and wretched fellow. And that is a symptom of Krishna's mercy. Krishna says, to one who I am especially mercifully disposed. Harishe Taddanam Shanai. Takes away everything. And Srila Prabhupada was struggling like anything with his family, his business, and nothing was working out at all. And then he found that verse. We're going to read this tomorrow morning. And he thought, uh-oh, wait a minute. That's me. That's what's happening to me. It can't be, but it is. And then he went to one of his godbrothers and said, could this be happening to me? And his godbrother confirmed, yes, Bhaktivedanta Prabhu. Srila Prabhupada was recognized by his godbrothers as a very learned, talented writer and scholar. And so originally, at first they started calling him Kavi, even during the presence of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur because of his writing. Then later, a group of the godbrothers, after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had disappeared, they were staying in the building next door to Srila Prabhupada's residence at Sita Kanta Banerjee Lane in Calcutta. And Prabhupada had his office there on the ground floor, his family upstairs. He had the building next door, and his godbrothers rented a few rooms from him. A small group of them, a few sannyasis actually. And there they held their programs, their own little programs, and they did their own cooking and their own puja and everything. And Prabhupada would associate with them. And they were friends, kind of staying away from the fray that was the legal battleground of the collapse of the Gaudiya Math after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati left this world. Immediately there was a big power grab and legal wranglings and factionalism and fighting. And they remained aloof from the fray. They had their own little program. They even had a little sign there. They hung out a sign. It's called Devananda Saraswati Math. So Prabhupada consulted with his godbrothers and friends there. He said, could this be happening to me? Is this verse, is this what's going on with me and Krishna? And then Prabhupada's godbrother Sridhar Maharaj told him, yes, this would very well be you. This verse is describing you. And Prabhupada was horrified. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was coming to Prabhupada. He came to him in a dream, and he was beckoning. And Prabhupada understood, he's calling me to come take sannyas. And he thought, no way. Forget it. I got my family. We just read 1940s, early 1950s. He had 5 children at home. His wife, he's maintaining the house. He had a business in Lucknow. That failed. He started a little business in Allahabad. That also failed. Everything was going wrong. He couldn't make any money. He didn't associate with his family. They rejected him. And then we read this morning, the dream came again a second time. And Bhaktisiddhanta's beckoning him, come, take sannyas. And Prabhupada's like, I can't do that. I got my family, I got these responsibilities. I need to make some money. I said, no, this is never going to happen. But later he did take sannyas. It's an interesting story about how first he approached his godbrothers in Calcutta, and they told him, well, you just come and live with us and do some service, and then we shall see about sannyas. We'll see about that. Right? They had no idea who Srila Prabhupada was. Nobody knew. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati knew. He said, you don't have to recommend him. In due course of time, prophetic words. And so Prabhupada, he wanted to take sannyas. He wanted to follow the order of his guru. And his godbrothers were telling him, yeah, first you come surrender to us, and then we'll see maybe about sannyas. And then he wrote to his godbrother Keshava Maharaj, who had his mata in Mathura and was publishing the Gaudiya Patrika magazine. And Prabhupada was writing articles for this magazine and being published in Bengali, preaching. And Keshava Maharaj told him, yes, you must take sannyas immediately. Come, take sannyas. I will give you sannyas. Because no one will become you cannot become a preacher without sannyas. And of course, Srila Prabhupada became the preacher of all preachers. Lilamrita, how he was writing letters, trying to influence thinkers and politicians and other sadhus, and no one cared. We read how he wrote to the Ford Foundation, and they wrote back to him, we cannot accede to your request to form an association of intelligent men. We have no interest in Very funny. No, we're not interested in having an association of the intelligent class of men. That's not who we are, and that's not who we do. We're the Ford Foundation. We don't have intelligent class of men. So, Srila Prabhupada was just meeting failure after failure after failure after failure. And you would think, well, what the heck? He's a pure devotee of Krishna. But this was the Leela. This was what Krishna was putting him through and readying him for the big stage, which was not India. But then he came to America, penniless, catching a free ride on a boat where he had 2 heart attacks. Coming to New York, where he only knew one Mayavadi yoga uptown Swami with a yoga studio, and one engineer in Butler, Pennsylvania, whose father was an acquaintance of his who had sponsored him. Nothing, nobody, no money. Actually, later when Prabhupada returned to India after his stroke, he had the same 40 rupees that he had had in his pocket when he came to America. You can't spend rupees in America. Sometimes people come and they give rupees. Like, go to the currency exchange and ask them to exchange rupees, and they'll laugh you out of the room. Rupees? We don't do rupees, man. You got Deutschmarks, or they don't have those anymore. You got euros or pounds? Yes, okay. Dinars? No. Dinar Krishna Daseko. No dinars. Rupees? You got to be kidding. I had an experience. I came back from India. I was at customs in JFK airport in New York, and I had some British pound coins. They generally won't take any coins at all, but British pound coins they would take at the currency exchange when you come into the airport. So they don't take coins, but British pound coins they would take, and of course pound sterling they would take. And I said, okay, do you guys take rupees? And the guy looked at me and he just laughed. He said, Indian rupees? He said, no, you gotta be kidding. Those things are worthless. So Prabhupada had that 40 rupees that he brought with him from India when he got off the boat in New York. Then he went back, and when he flew into Delhi, he caught a cab from the airport into Delhi. And then Sudhamani, we were talking about this yesterday, or she called me from Delhi. And Devi Shakti Mataji is really big on Prabhupada Lilamrita and giving her lectures are all over Dandavats. She was talking about Prabhupada coming to America. So Prabhupada had that 40 rupees. And then the cab driver took the 40 rupees and he wouldn't give Prabhupada any change. And Prabhupada had written in a letter, he cheated me. I am an Indian and he cheated me. What to speak of if you're a Westerner going there? Oh yes, they know how to cheat. They're very expert cheaters there. Just because you go to India doesn't mean everybody's a devotee of Krishna. Trust me. As a matter of fact, we're hearing right here about demons who are using Krishna in their rasa. So I was inspired today by Prabhupada's writing this master's thesis worthy purport. Someone could do a whole thesis, even a PhD thesis, just on the subject matter of today's purport, which is very extensive and describes many, many things. And because the time was so short, I decided to go instead of covering point by point by point this purport. I mean, one paragraph would have been enough to go on, but it just made me realize even further the glories of Srila Prabhupada as not only Pratishtacharya, but Jagat Guru, a term that Prabhupada did not like. He did not like the term Jagat Guru. Why? Jagat Guru means the spiritual master of the Jagat, the spiritual master of the whole world. And if ever there was a Jagat Guru, it's Srila Prabhupada. Now, in one of his poems written on the Jaladutta, right upon his arrival in America, Prabhupada refers to Krishna as Jagat Guru, O spiritual master of the universe. So why didn't, and we certainly recognize Prabhupada as Jagat Guru, the great spiritual master who preached Krishna consciousness all over the world in an astounding way. Actually, there's one statement where Srila Prabhupada talks about Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati as that spiritual master who had the ability to bestow intense Krishna consciousness upon people at different times and different places. And that description certainly fits Srila Prabhupada. Some people became devotees, and maybe still, just by seeing Prabhupada's picture on the Back to Godhead magazine or on the back of the Bhagavad Gita. They see Prabhupada's picture like, that's the guru, that's him. There was one devotee preaching, doing books, I believe at a book table in France, and a man came up to the table, he saw the picture of Prabhupada, goes, that's him! The devotee's like, oh yes? He said, I saw him in a dream, and in my dream he came to me and he said, get these books, and here you are with the books, and he got all the books, every different book that was available on the table there. He bought every book. He came to me in a dream. He had a dream of Srila Prabhupada telling him to get his books. Who does that? Jagat Guru. That's what Jagat Guru does. People became devotees and surrendered just by seeing Prabhupada. They saw him. Krishna Kumari, she has described how when Prabhupada would come, like in LA, big community of devotees, and they would greet him in the airport, and there would be a big kirtan, and you would see Srila Prabhupada. It was not a question of whether you're dancing. No, you were swept off your feet. You were in the air because you were experiencing the ecstasy of a Jagat Guru, the Jagat Guru. Lavamatra sadasanga sarva siddhi hoy. All perfection can be achieved just by lavamatra, 1/11th of a second of association with a Vaishnava, especially a super Vaishnava. And Srila Prabhupada is certainly that. Lavamatra. There was no question, oh, am I going to dance? Am I feeling it? I'm not feeling it. No, you were in the air. And everybody was in the air. It was not like a voluntary thing. It's like breathing. You don't think about, am I going to breathe? You just breathe. It's involuntary. It's an automatic bio process. So jumping up in the air, devotees crying, Prabhupada. Just by seeing him, just by his association in a giant room full of devotees. There's Prabhupada. Oh, Prabhupada. They fall down on the floor, then they jump up in the air. It's just not like conscious decisions. It's being carried by the taranga bhajo, the waves of Krishna consciousness, which Prabhupada manifested and bestowed. And it is my contention that is still available today through kirtan, association, studying Prabhupada's books. That same intense Krishna consciousness that Prabhupada bestowed upon devotees tangibly is still there. It's actually still there. It's available with the same undiminished potency. Although we have no doubt that Kali Yuga has advanced in the last 50 years. No doubt about that. Prabhupada disappeared not quite 50 years ago. But since that time, 47 years, Kali Yuga has advanced significantly. But still, that same mercy, that same rain cloud of mercy that extinguishes our conditional life, that fire of repeated birth and death, is coming down, and it will continue, according to the Shastra, for 10,000 years. So get yourself together. This is the right time. The right time, the right place. Okay, I'll stop here. Questions, comments, realizations? You have that. Oh, wait a minute. Ananta's first. He's giving a high sign.
A lot of people have noticed the Vietnamese fellow with no teeth that comes on Sunday.
Yeah.
He says that Prabhupada appeared to him in a dream and told him to come here. He's also seen Prabhupada a couple other times, one at LA Fitness. He said, just like I see you, Prabhupada was there standing and looking at office obeisance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting fellow. Yeah, and he loves kirtan. He comes for the kirtan, but he doesn't stay for the lecture. One time he came to a program and he was wearing like this Chinese kind of kung fu outfit thing because he considers himself a Buddhist monk. Very interesting fellow. I met his whole family about around 1997 or so, when they first came from Vietnam. His parents, his whole family, I knew them because I knocked on their door, selling paintings door to door, and met them. And him and his sister and his parents who spoke French, and they were all nice Buddhist family, but a very amazing fellow. So I met him on the street, and then now he comes to the temple.
He got smashed by Padmanabhan pretty bad when he was the home program once. But I just appreciate how Srila Prabhupada, yes, to the beginning, just appreciating how Prabhupada very clearly, cuts away the sentiment involved in this kind of Bhagavat, Raga Bhakti Marg. People kind of, they want to talk about it or say something about it, but Prabhupada really cuts the sentiment away and really says it how it is and puts you right back down to earth and really makes us really focus on what we need to focus on before we can ever even conceive of being on that level. So I really appreciate that purport.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Prabhupada is the master of the science of bhakti. And he lights the way for us so that we don't become bewildered delusion if we follow his instructions. If we don't, like my old friend, the cool California guy who became a sannyasi and then became a Babaji, I feel so bad for him because he has completely disregarded Srila Prabhupada's instructions in this matter. And it caused a great pain in my heart because he was really a nice devotee. He was really a wonderful devotee. And like, what happened? How did that happen? But it was by bad association. By bad association. Looking for, I'm in Vrindavan now. Now I'm going higher. Prabhupada said, don't go looking in the bushes in Vrindavan for Radha and Krishna. Stay in the association of the ISKCON family and make gradual advancement. Yes, sir.
Hey, well, with Chaturmas, shave the beard. I understand something like this.
To not shave the beard.
To not shave the beard, yeah. Okay. But so we see Keshava, Prabhupada Sannyas Guru, the one who initiated him in sannyas. We see him with the beard sometimes, and Narayan Maharaj see him with the beard sometimes. Can you speak to what the proper as to why?
Yes, if you're going to do that, then you also have to follow the all the other austerities of Chaturmasya, which means you only eat rice and dal once a day, and it's thrown on the floor, and you eat it up off the floor without your hands, like a dog. I don't see anyone doing that. I see plenty of beards. And there was one devotee who gave a class in Vrindavan recently, within a few months ago. He said, "What's with the beards?" And Prabhupada said, "I like this." Gave his clean shaven face. And then told the devotees, "I have come to save you." But he said it in Bengal, they say the S like SH. "I have come to shave you." And devotee asked Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, you have come to save us or you have come to shave us?" And Prabhupada said, "Yes." So beards are fashionable, indeed. You see so many beards, especially amongst the second generation of Kirtaniyas. The beard, the big, well, so many things. Nose ring and, tattoos. And there are so many things that are fashionable. But Prabhupada did not do that. Nor do we see Prabhupada with a beard of more than a couple of days' growth sometimes in Vrindavan. He wouldn't shave for a couple of days. But he also said that if you want to follow Chaturmasya, you have to follow Chaturmasya and not just grow your beard. And then one devotee, I won't mention his name, he grew a big white beard. Himself as a big spokesman of ISKCON policy in India. And he's very conservative and sort of a real chauvinistic, let us say, personality. He grew this big beard, and the devotee said, "Oh, why is he growing the big beard?" He said, "Oh, the Christmas is coming. He's going to America. He's going to be Santa Claus in the mall." So this guy following Chaturmasya. He's not a sannyasi, but he likes that big beard because it is, yeah. And so, hairstyle is not necessarily legislated in the, the books of the Goswamis, but generally the renunciants, they shave their head and they shave their face. And so we see Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati with the beard. He followed Chaturmasya to the South Indian. He was very well versed in the Ramanuja tradition. And he did Chaturmasya like that. And so did some of his sannyasis. But Prabhupada didn't tell us to do that. He told us not to do that. Ours is a preaching movement. If you want to go be a Babaji and live in abject poverty in some hut somewhere in the agricultural fields of Vrindavan and don't eat for 4 months, well, okay then. But that part you won't do. Neither did Prabhupada. Gave one Babaji initiation to a devotee who begged him for Babaji because he thought he was dying of cancer. And then it turned out, and Prabhupada said, "Okay, you just go in Mayapur, live in a hut in the field, and practice austerity and chant Hare Krishna 24 hours a day." He became so restless that he left. Turns out he didn't have cancer, and he was all pink and healthy. And he gave up that Babaji. So Prabhupada did it one time, and he was like, "Okay, forget it. No Babaji in our movement. That is not what we're about." Despite historical precedents. The whole up to the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur was Babajis practically, not even sannyasis. It was Babajis. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself practiced a form of Babaji, a Kshetriya sannyas is called, living in a hut outside his family residence and taking meals from them. But that's not our program. That's not what Prabhupada taught us. So we're Prabhupada Nugos, we follow Prabhupada. That is our movement. That is whom Lord Chaitanya empowered to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So that's who we follow, not someone else. All right, enough of that. Went over time, sorry about that. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Oh, well, maybe he's